you've dealt with art also. We've got one sketch here that we found very, very meaningful. What do you guys see here?
The infamous Annie Q sketch.
The infamous what, you said?
Annie Q sketch. That's the woman that did it, and she is one of the, I'll tell you something. When I first met this woman, I thought first she had to be crazy, because she's one of these vibrant activists, homeless people that doesn't stop. She's 24 hours. In fact, she started a newsletter for the homeless called Voices to and from the Streets. But she is one of the greatest artists I've ever met in my life. I mean, some of the, I have no words, but some of the art that she's created has inspired me to just, you know, put everything into my, you know, into the things that I do, because it's so, her art is so intense, so devastating.
And that piece in particular can look like, it reminds me of a mother, and you just feel the woman. And with the poem, which is also by Annie, that's right next to that piece in the book, it's a love poem that talks about sitting in Grand Central Station and somebody who has a home who passes by and gives some affection, but then he's gone now forever, not just for a while, are the last words.
Andrew, how did you... Okay, let's put it this way. I'm sitting out there watching Nightwatch, and here you come on, and you look healthy.
I feel healthy.
You look strong, very literate, and I might say, sitting out there, so why was he ever homeless? He's got a job now, and he's working and making money. Why couldn't he have done this before?
Well, I was working and making money while I was living in the street, too. But the cost of living, I mean, it's not as easy as just making money, and it's a catch-22. You make money, you have to eat, and you have to, you know, I mean, sometimes you go inside 2 days out of every 2 weeks, maybe. You may go into a hotel with the money that you make from working. But the cost is so great that, I mean, you can't accumulate money, you see.
So but at some point, you had a home. I guess the question is, how did you lose that home and the streets become...
I grew up in homes, in boys' homes, actually. And when I was 17, I was thrown out, okay? And I was working when I was
thrown out because...
Because I was it. I was old enough, yeah. That was all she wrote, so, you know. And so I ended up in the street, you know. And actually, I'll tell you, in a way, my situation was kind of unique, because I didn't take it as a devastation to be thrown out in the street. I took it as an adventure, and I started to, I mean, I traveled around New York State, basically, and played around and had a really good time. I didn't have as much, I didn't go through as much misery as some people go through in the street, especially kids nowadays. You know?
In the beginning, though, when I met you, in the course of things, it's not
well,
pleasant.
I'll tell you something. It was driving me to the hermit syndrome, to the you know, cut off society, hide in a box syndrome, which is what a lot of homeless people do, and that's why you run across a lot of homeless people who are, you know, talking to themselves or sitting on a grate and completely devastated. That person at one time was probably a professor or something. I mean, you never know. You know, I've run into some really incredible people out on the street. You know, you go through, it changes your whole attitude toward life, and you begin to hate society for the way that society allows life to continue like this. Because anywhere else in the world, I mean, I was in Korea for 8 months, and in Korea, you could never be, they don't let you be homeless. You're homeless, someone comes along and says, hey, man, I got a bed in my house. Want to come, you know, you have somewhere to sleep, you know? I mean, it's not...
You see a lot of, have seen, going to continue to see as you move to your new environment to work with the homeless. Is there one trait, is there one characteristic?
No, so many. When Andrew was saying mine is a kind of unique situation, I'm sitting here thinking everybody's is. And it's so much of a variety of people, old people, young people, children, families, people who have been battered or pushed around in their lives till they've given up, and you might say, well, they walked out with their own 2 feet from that place and went on the street. But it wasn't a choice to go through the emotional things that they had, like a young man. And when you look at New York City shelter population, it's young black and Hispanic men. And I always run into, well, they're young, they're healthy, why don't they get a job? And what Andrew said, some of them do work. They simply don't make enough for housing.
Right.
Others go from place to place trying to get a job. They might be offered Burger King at minimum wage. They know that that's not going to equal housing, so they say, no, I'm not going to take that.
Right.
And they go, their mother says, look, you can't stay here till you bring home some food. Fill up this refrigerator, then you're welcome. Until then, we don't want to see you. People on the subways, if you see a black man looking kind of rough and ragged, you clutch your pocketbook and turn the other way. You don't ask him, do you need help? You don't feel sympathy to that person.
And you don't realize that he's probably sitting there in pain anyway.
Right,
you know?
that's what I was going to say.
I mean, that guy is sitting there cringing from whatever devastation he's been going through, and people walk past him and say, oh my God, he's a mugger, or he's this, or he's that. And they don't realize that this guy could, could be dying inside.
And he could
Tomorrow,
be
the guy could jump off. Right.
Yeah.
How would you characterize the majority of the contributors to the book of poems? I too was not surprised. I've done stories and other events with homeless, so I wasn't surprised at the hope. But I think I was a little taken back by the fact that it seems to be the overwhelming thing to me.
That and honesty. The fact that people were willing. There's a piece in there by a woman, Burnett Klein, called An Inner Moment. And she starts out saying, how indignant of you to ask me to write a classical essay when I'm in this situation. I mean, how, and I forget the word she used, something can life become. And then she said, will it help you not to travel the same byways? Probably not, but let's hope there is hope eternal. And then she goes in to just describing what it feels like inside for her inner moment, being homeless. And I think other than the hope, it was the fact that people were willing to be so honest and open that struck me.
Let's think small for just a moment here. In an ideal world, we can't conquer homeless by noon tomorrow, but in an ideal world, what can just one person do today to help?
Stop and talk to a homeless person on the street. Instead of walking away from him or being afraid of him, stop and ask him how he feels and who he is and what he's there for. I mean, one of the problems in this society is that 90% of the society is anonymous. Nobody knows who anybody is. And so we don't know that these people out in the street are just as human as the people everywhere else.
Another thing would be is just to stop and chat about anything, not ask, why don't you go to a shelter? Why don't you do this? Because you just met the person. You have no right. Just say, you know, the weather's nice today.
Be truly interested in who this person is.
Yeah, just be concerned
It's
and be human.
Simple.
It's
and
the
then
lack
actually,
of...
You'd be surprised how uplifting that is. One of the things that devastated me out in the street was that I had no one that I could talk to. And when I did find people to talk to, it really changed my whole attitude for that time.
Andrew Byard, Deborah Mashibini, thank you. And thank you for your work with the homeless, and special thanks to you for your poem.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to read it.
Thank you.
More Nightwatch in a few moments.
Fear of AIDS has prompted some doctors to refuse to treat victims of the deadly disease. A look at this troubling development this week on Nightwatch. From CBS News in Washington, this is the CBS News Nightwatch. And sitting in for Charlie Rose, here is CBS News correspondent Eric Engberg.
There are many ways to gauge the health of the nation's economy.